Good to go. All right. All right. Well, welcome. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to join us this evening. We're going to be talking a little bit tonight about passphrases and child keys. So maybe that's a brand new topic for you. Maybe it's second hat. So regardless, we'll have time for some Q&A and questions along the way. Just real quickly, introduce myself. My name's Tim. Married my college sweetheart. We live in Parker area of Colorado. I'm a Colorado native. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so I'm still here in Colorado enjoying this beautiful state. I teach personal finance at Colorado Christian University. I've been doing that for about 10 years. And just a semester ago, I approached the dean of the university and said, hey, I'd love to teach a semester on Bitcoin. And so I started a full semester class on Bitcoin last semester. We'll be teaching it again this fall. We teach students how to run Lightning nodes, how to transact and other things, all kinds of aspects of Bitcoin, including some of what we'll be talking about tonight. I love teaching at a Christian university. I think Bitcoin lines up with Christian principles quite nicely, just because it's honest money. And that's part of the attraction that led me to Bitcoin and why I'm a Bitcoin purist when it comes to any other kind of cryptocurrencies. So what we won't cover tonight is what is Bitcoin. If you want to attend that class, that's the 101 classes that we offer here at the space, and I would encourage you to attend that. We will also not be talking about a cryptographic key. That was a class I taught 2 months ago where we talked about a key. I'll go quickly through that because it does set the foundation to what we're going to be talking about tonight. What we are going to cover tonight is what's a passphrase? Why and when should I use a passphrase? How do you secure a passphrase? What's a child key? Why and when would I use a child key? And how to create a child key from a passphrase and import it into a wallet app. So we will kind of go through those steps as we go through our lesson tonight. So my goal tonight is to give you an appreciation of Bitcoin security and confidence that you will need to safely manage your Bitcoin. As I tell my students, yes, there's some complexities, there's some hoops you got to jump through, there's some things that may not be that intuitive at first glance, but being your own bank has never been easier. So if you want to bank at a bank, you can bank at a bank and you can buy your Bitcoin very simply at an exchange or through Coinbase or through an ETF. But if you really want to be your own bank, here's a few different steps that aren't overly complicated, but we will get a little bit into some weeds, but we'll have time for questions as we go through that. So first off, and this is just a little bit from a course I taught the 201 class on talking about what is a cryptographic key. And at the end of the day, a cryptographic key is 256 zeros and ones called bits in a series of randomness. And if you were to break it down into hexadecimal format, you can get it down to 64 digits and have it in that kind of, actually 32 for a 256 byte key. But all to say is a key is just a lot of weird random digits in a way. If we can get more complex than that. But understanding your cryptographic key is, I would argue, the most important aspect of understanding Bitcoin. Because once you understand what a key is, how it works, then it's pretty basic from there as to how to use it and when to use it and how to leverage that. There's a saying in the Bitcoin space, not your keys, not your coin, or not your keys, not your cheese. And so the question is, who holds the keys to your Bitcoin? If you bought your Bitcoin on Coinbase, who has the key to that Bitcoin? They hold the key to your Bitcoin. You merely have a claim through them for some Bitcoin that they are holding on your behalf. What if you had the self-sovereignty and the responsibility of holding your own keys? You can be as secure as Coinbase when it comes to owning and controlling your keys. So another thing that people kind of get confused about, and I would say is, no one really owns Bitcoin. What they own is a cryptographic key to an address that is holding some Bitcoin, that is stored in the cloud. And so Bitcoin isn't on your device, Bitcoin isn't in your phone, Bitcoin is stored across the 100,000 nodes that are recording this transaction in the public ledger, and the only way to unlock that Bitcoin and move it is with your cryptographic key. So what you hold is a key to simply move Bitcoin from one address to another address. So Bitcoin is a closed system, it's its own network, and so when you go to acquire Bitcoin, you are trading, say, dollars or services or something for somebody to move some Bitcoin that they've earned ultimately through the mining process to transfer to your Bitcoin address. So all people are doing is moving some Bitcoin from this address to that address. That's all that happens at the base layer on the Bitcoin network. No one controls or owns the network, but anyone can participate by running free open source software and interacting with it. That's called running a node, and I would encourage you to do so if you aren't doing that, and that's a separate topic for another day. But the specific private key is linked to an address. So your 256 random characters are tied to a Bitcoin address. If Bitcoin is held at that address, that single 256-bit key is what is used to unlock and move the Bitcoin from that address to some other address on the Bitcoin network. And so to move Bitcoin from one address to another, the address holding the Bitcoin must be unlocked by the private key, then moved to another address where it will be locked by another private key. So all Bitcoin is theoretically locked by a key. And we already know that where the 20,000 already mined Bitcoin are, we can see that in the public ledger. All 20 million, I said thousand, all 20 million plus Bitcoin that are in circulation, if you will, that have been mined are readily available. We know exactly where they are at any point in time. What we don't know is who has the key to move that Bitcoin, or do they even still have the key to move that Bitcoin? There are just under 1 million that still reside in what's referred to as the Coinbase, not to be referred to as, confused with the company Coinbase, but to be mined over the next 110 years through the mining process. So does anyone own Bitcoin? No, not really. What they own is a private digital 256-bit key to move Bitcoin from one address to another. Whoever has access to the key might be who is considered to own or control that Bitcoin at that address. And it could be argued, again, that nobody really owns Bitcoin. What they possess is the digital key to transact on the Bitcoin network. So no one's ever lost Bitcoin. Did you know that? No one has ever lost Bitcoin. What they lost, perhaps, was the key to the Bitcoin. Because again, we know that there's some Bitcoin at an address. What we don't know is where's that key that goes to that address. So what happens to lost keys? Well, practically speaking, it's lost forever, thereby decreasing the max supply below the 21 million cap. And as we say in the Bitcoin space, thank you for your contribution. So do not lose your key. We will talk a little bit about securing your key as well. So again, Bitcoin is not held on a single device. Fortunately, it's spread across hundreds of thousands of nodes across the network, and the record of every transaction and the details of those addresses holding that Bitcoin is stored on a public distributed ledger in the cloud, as it were. Tens of thousands, if not over 100,000 computers called nodes, which run the free open source software. You could be one of those individuals running that software too. So when a transaction is committed, these nodes validate that the right key was used to unlock and move that address, Bitcoin from that address, and the Bitcoin gets moved. And then the public ledger gets updated to record that transaction. The record of every address holding Bitcoin stored across the nodes takes a unique private key. I've already shared all that, the key stored on a device. So creating and securing your private key is the most important thing to know in Bitcoin. So where does this key come from? Well, fortunately, there is no central authority that issues Bitcoin keys, right? And that's a good thing. Anyone can create a key. You can roll some dice, you can take a random picture, you can do all kinds of different ways to create randomness that would be completely unique to generate your own key. We're not going to go into that too much here this evening, but once you have a key, then you get your address. So the key and the public address are linked together, so you must have a key in order to create an address. And think of an address almost like an account, if you will. So if you want Bitcoin to be held at an address on the Bitcoin network, you must have a key that goes with it, and it is the key that essentially creates the address. So you cannot have an address without a corresponding key. So it all starts with a key. And when we talk about where this key is stored and how it is used, there's a phrase used where it could either be considered a hot wallet or cold storage. What's the difference? A hot wallet is one where the key, that digital information, is stored on a device that has ever at any time and ever will be connected to the internet. So if you have a device on you have your key on your phone, you're storing your key there and you're transacting in Bitcoin, that's considered a hot wallet. A hot wallet is fine, but it's not quite as secure as what's called a cold wallet. A cold wallet is where this key is either stored in my head or stored on a device that has never been connected to the internet. So if the key is on a device that, say, runs on batteries, communicates by QR codes, things like that, then that's considered a cold storage device. And if you were storing, and if we're the bank, we're trying to be our own bank, and we want to store a lot of wealth, we would want to make sure that this device has never been hacked, there's no malware on it, there's no spyware, there's no way that this thing is getting broken into, if you will. And then there's other things such as multi-sig and other things like that we'll touch on another day as well. But cold storage is where a device might hold the cryptographic key to move Bitcoin, but that device has never been connected to the internet. Tonight what we're going to do is show you how to create a kind of special password using a passphrase and a child key, and we're going to import that into a hot wallet and use that. So again, hot wallet is fine for, consider like you're spending money, a few $100 maybe, something like that, that if you, you happen to get hacked, you didn't lose your life savings, but that key is stored on a device connected to the internet. Cold storage is not. Questions on anything I've covered thus far, and we'll otherwise press on. Okay, let's press on real quick. The way most keys are derived today, they can be characterized as either a 12 or 24 word seed, if you will. There's a grouping of 2,048 words that represent all those zeros and ones, and from that you can create your key. And so just by memorizing typically 12 or 24 words, you can do 18 and 20, 15 and stuff like that on occasion, but usually it's 12 or 24. We're going to look at a 12-word seed tonight to do that. So typically it's a 12-word seed that's considered enough to be quantum resistant with just 12 words. So if you can memorize 12 words, like I tell my students, I could walk across any country of the world naked. It would not be a pretty sight, and carry all my wealth with me. So if you can memorize 12 words, it's a beautiful thing. So some best practices, you never want to say your words aloud. Is Google Home listening? Is Alexa listening? You never want to write down these in proximity of a camera. Watch your laptop camera, things like that. You probably want to put these on metal, not just paper, and make sure it's secured someplace where nobody's going to discover them and whatnot. Consider all kinds of natural disasters, that kind of thing. You might want to memorize your words, but don't rely on your memory alone. You get hit by the bus, what happens to your Bitcoin? Ensure that very few trusted individuals have access to those 12 or 24 words. And again, more people lose their keys than have had them stolen. You are your biggest threat to losing your Bitcoin. So, yes, there are the $5 wrench attacks and things like that that occur, but you are very much likely your greatest threat to losing your Bitcoin. So be careful. If you're going to take the responsibility of holding your key, then you have to take responsibility for doing so. All right, so passphrases. What are passphrases? A passphrase is an extra word. It's a 13th or 25th word to a 12 or 24 word master seed. A passphrase can be up to 100 characters in length, can include spaces and other special characters, and can be upper and lowercase, and upper and lowercase matters. So you change one little upper and lowercase, and the whole thing's different. You add a symbol at the end, and the whole thing's different, right? So a passphrase can be up to 100 characters with all kinds of different things. So here's some examples. A passphrase could be, the space is the place, okay? With a space in between, okay? That could be a passphrase. The space, all caps, is the place. A completely different passphrase. The space is the place, all lowercase. A completely different passphrase. All caps. All taking out the spaces. Capitalizing the first letters but taking out the spaces. Adding an exclamation mark. Putting in a special character. All of these would be a different key if I added this passphrase as a 13th or 25th word to my master seed, if you will. So if you've got your 12 words memorized, you've got those down, you've got them written down, you know how to get to those 12 words. Now, I can create an unlimited number of passphrases just to my one 12-word seed. And what's the chance that somebody gets my 12 words and knows exactly how I've structured my passphrase? Right? So very secure if you can, again, keep it demarcated between the two. But I've also now introduced complexity, haven't I? So in addition to the 12 words, and I tell my spouse, oh, the special password is called the space is the place. Okay, well, there's lots of different ways to maybe key that in. Does she know exactly how to enter that? Have I indicated exactly how to get there? So passphrases can be a beautiful thing. Somebody finds my 12 words, but it's secured by a passphrase. What do I have to worry? I've heard of people who say, here's my 12 words. And they publish them and say, come get it. Because they've got it secured with passphrases, and they don't care if somebody has their 12 words. And so this might be the only thing you really extra need to know on top of that. But all to say is, it's got to be exact. And every little character, every little change makes a difference to the key. And I've created a new key. And I could have, this could be a wallet, this could be a wallet, this could be a wallet. So a wallet is considered a series of addresses controlled by the one key. And each of these is its own key when I've added that passphrase to my 12 or 24 words. Okay? So some advantages of a passphrase. Well, one, it allows me to split my Bitcoin holdings across multiple wallets. I now have the ability to, okay, I memorized those 12 words. Now, I want to maybe have a little Bitcoin here, a little Bitcoin there, whatever. If I wanted to split it across some different, maybe I want to track where this Bitcoin came from. Did I buy this on an exchange? Did I get this from Joe? Did I get this, maybe I want to create my own, in addition to the labeling that you can do in some wallet software, maybe I also want to have a special key assigned to a specific source or means or use of what I'm using this Bitcoin for. And I want it segregated from other Bitcoin holdings. So, and again, I only need to know one more word for each of those different segregations. I don't have to recreate and record and stamp in metal and secure and hide and whatever 12 or 24 new words every time. I can just create a new passphrase. Now I got a new wallet and completely unique addresses associated with that. So passphrases can be great. Disadvantages, well, again, I've just added some complexity, haven't I? If I, for whatever reason, lose that passphrase, that Bitcoin's gone. It's not like I can recover it with just my 12 or 24 words. I've lost that Bitcoin. If I forget, if I can't remember if I used an exclamation mark at the end or not, or started it with whatever, it's gone. If I cannot remember my passphrase, it's history. So remember, it's the 12 or 24 words plus the passphrase together that create this new key. You lose any component of that, you can only remember 11 words, gone. You can't, whatever, So I've maybe added complexity and just know it can, you create, 3,800 different passphrases for all these different scenarios. You've added a lot of complexity to your life. So some best practices when it comes to passphrases. One is never store your 12 or 24 word master seed with your passphrases. Okay? If you've got that special hiding place or that safety deposit box or that wherever that you're keeping your 12 or 24 words, don't put your passphrases with that because you're just giving them all your Bitcoin then at that point. So make sure those are separated. Never the two shall meet, right? So your 12 or 24 words, somebody comes across those, if it's all secured with passphrases, who cares? But, and if somebody discovers your passphrases, but they don't have your 12 or 24 words, who cares? So for that reason, I suggest storing your passphrases in your password manager. So in a password manager, you keep track of your passphrases. Should somebody happen to crack your personal password manager and get your passphrases, they might know that you maybe have some Bitcoin, depending on how much notes you included in that, but at least they don't have your 12 or 24 words, and so they can't get to your Bitcoin anyway. But it's safe and secure, and if those you love and trust have access to your password manager, well, now they know, oh, here's how I can recover the Bitcoin someday if needed, because we know where those 12 words are, and we know how to get to, we know what the passphrases are, we can recover the Bitcoin. So ensure those that you trust have access to your passphrases exactly. as you've noted them. Don't get too crazy, right? It's easy to just, I'll just keep adding passphrases, right? You can add gazillions. Be careful. You just added a lot of complexity. And it must be, and also don't get too crazy in length. I mean, a 98-letter passphrase is more secure than a 12-letter passphrase. Well, that might be true, but, well, to a point. But even there, your 24-word, 24-word key is likely very secure already. So just know that if you go to use, is this coming through still? Yeah. If you go to use your passphrase, often you have to add it each time you boot up your device or your unit that you want to use. So if you've got a 98-letter passphrase, that might take you a while to get that keyed in. So all to say is, yes, you can go up to 100 characters, but that might be a little crazy. So make it easily memorable. Consider some common conventions that might be unique to you. What's a prefix or a suffix you could add to some other type of thing as a code? Is your use of spaces consistent? Do you use spaces or not use spaces? That might be helpful. What's your use of upper and lower case or all caps? Is there a rhythm to, if you've got a dozen different passphrases, is there kind of a formula that you have in mind for that? I'll give you an example of that in just a moment. So right now, what I would like you to do, if you want to, you can go to this website, and we're going to pull this up online, and you can scan this QR code as well. And we're going to demonstrate and show how a passphrase is used. So I'm going to escape out of here, bring up my browser. And so we are at the Ian Coleman BIP39 website. When it comes up, and this is a website that just kind of shows you how these kinds of keys can be generated, how passphrases come up and sort of thing. So I'm going to first change this to a 12-word random mnemonic, and I'm going to say generate. And in fact, if you want to do exactly what I'm doing, you could enter these words in there and do that. Otherwise, you can generate and do your own. But if you want to go ahead and put your, if you want to try to put these words in, you can do that. Notice that what happened when I said generate, it created actually a 512-bit seed. So there's actually two parts here. There's the private and public portion of this key that it generated, but all of that is represented by these 12 words. Now, these 12 words are what's considered a 128-bit key, and 128 bits is 128 random zeros and ones. And you might think, man, that doesn't seem very secure. For a computer to go through the hacking process, again, this is already considered quantum resistant. It would take thousands of years with today's computers to hack your one key with a 128-bit encryption. And plus, we're going to be adding passphrases to that anyway, so then it adds even that much more. So this is highly secure. A lot of people use that. If you want to go to 24 words, that's the max, and it's just 12 more words to memorize. If you want to do that, go for it. But we're just going to use the 12-word example. So if you key in these 12 words in most Bitcoin wallets, most Bitcoin devices, you would get the exact same key because they all use the same process for understanding. So this word junk represents a certain grouping of zeros and ones, as does caught and dismiss and so forth. And so it builds the 128 bit key, and from that spawns the exact same key each time, which is great because then do I need my device when I walk across that country naked? No. I don't even need to have a device with me. Now, I'm going to have to find a device or find an app or find a computer or whatever. Pretty easy to do, though. I can go just about anywhere, download any application, and boom, enter my 12 words, and I'm off to the races. So these same 12, and that's exactly, though, why you want to protect these 12 words. Anybody who has these 12 words and know what they represent, they've got your Bitcoin. So you want to make sure that these are safe and secure and not fall into the wrong hands. Now, if we look down here, what we'll see, I'm going to move this to the BIP84 key, and what this is going to show us are some derived addresses. You see here, if you were to do a Bitcoin address and say, hey, send me some Bitcoin, you're going to send them an address. And if you keyed in those 12 words on any wallet and clicked receive, this is the address that's going to show up. This exact address, because they all use the same code, the same sequence to derive their Bitcoin address. So in fact, if you've happened to have entered those 12 words and you click receive, you might see it should end in MQNQ as the receive address. So with each key, you get an infinite number, really, of receive addresses. And if Bitcoin was sitting at this address, we would see it on the public ledger, and it's only this key that can unlock and move the Bitcoin at that address. Okay? Now, let's go back up here to earlier in the screen here. It says BIP39 passphrase, optional. What if we wanted to enter in a passphrase? Let's enter in a passphrase. Oops, sorry. The space is the place. And I'm just going to only capitalize the first letter, so on. Notice, if you could tell, this seed is completely different. Okay? Because that seed is completely different, this address is now completely different. So, creating a passphrase, the space is the place, the way I delineated it with those exact caps, ties in with that receive address. I add an exclamation mark here, changes the whole key, changes the receive address. If you gave somebody this receive address and they said, that it's on the public blockchain, everybody sees Bitcoin at this address, can they know anything about that key? They don't know the 12 words, they don't know the passphrase. There's nothing that's revealed with what we just created that reveals the key. And the key in this place is the combination of our 12 words and this passphrase, the space is the place, exclamation mark, capitalized like so, with a space in between. Okay? Questions up to this point? Yeah, Eric. I don't know for certain, but I think that's exactly right. I think what they do is just add it concatenate it to, in fact, there's already a passphrase that's kind of being added to the a default, yeah. Actually, with all of them, it's passing a passphrase, but the passphrase is no passphrase. And then, but even then, in the iteration, there's 2,048 iterations of the HMAC 512 or whatever it is that gives us the 512 output that is seeded with the word Bitcoin in it as well. But that's already included in the little process. But it's going through a mathematical SHA process that's not just SHA 256. This is like a SHA 512 output that gives you 512 bits of randomness to generate this key. So anyway, it's something along those lines. That's getting a little bit above my pay grade there. So, but that essentially you are just concatenating it to what's being put through a hashing process, and so it's just more information that's being hashed. All right. That's a little bit about passphrase. Any question about passphrase? And I'm going to move on to child keys. Okay, let me go back to my presentation here. We'll touch a little bit about child keys. What is a child key? Well, an address, a key can create almost an infinite number of addresses. A key can also create almost an infinite number of keys. So I can, with my same master key, my 12 words or 24 words, or my 12 or 24 words plus a passphrase, because that's a whole new key, create children off of that key. How would we use this, and what are, where does this come into play? So, and this gets crazy real quick, right? So your 12 or 24 word, a key, any key, can spawn over 4 billion children as separate keys in and of themselves. And each of those children can spawn 4 billion children. So this family chain gets pretty wide pretty quick, right? So there's ways to generate this child key and multiply it very quickly depending on what you wanted to do with it. So with a child key, there's no way of knowing other children. So with my master key, I spawn a child. Child 1, I spawn child 2. Do those keys know each other? No. There's nothing about each of those keys where this key would have any reference or knowledge of this key and vice versa. Okay? Just something to keep in mind. I'll revisit that in a second. So using a child key doesn't reveal the parent or the siblings. However, in most cases. Now, if for some reason, depending on how I've used that parent key, and if I've shared the full, what's called the chain code of that parent key, and somebody's got access to that, and they've got a child, they might be able to back into some things. But the way I'm going to show you how I think it's a good way to use it, you don't have to worry about that. But otherwise, you can add an index in the 3 millions, more, over 2 million, and create what's called a hardened key. But that's a whole separate thing, craziness. But all to say is your key can create other keys. Why might I want to even create another key? What are the advantages? Well, creating a new key with your master or parent is kind of like having a backup of this other key. What if I wanted to give somebody a key that I know I could always recover? My parents, who don't really know or understand Bitcoin, but I want to give them some Bitcoin, see what they could do with it. What if I gave them a cold card and they, oh, honey, we lost that thing. What was that thing? Okay. Can I trust my parents with the key? Maybe not. Can I trust a child, with a literal child, with a key, and my teenager with a Bitcoin key? Can I really trust that they're not going to lose it or do something with it? Okay. Having a child key that was created, it's an actual key, 12 or 24 word key, created from my master key, gives me the ability to always recreate that key if I needed to. So I've got a way to back it up. Parents come to me, honey, we lost the key. I don't know what that thing was that you gave us, but we lost it. Okay? Good thing I know how to back it up, right? And I didn't have to have it backed up in my password manager. I know how to recreate the child key. So I can get to it that way. So that's kind of how and where we would use it. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you an example of creating a unique key to use as a hot wallet. And instead of creating and tracking, another good use for a child key is instead of creating and tracking multiple random keys, I can just create as many keys as I want with a basic backup structure because I know how to recreate my child index keys. Disadvantages, well, if somebody gets my master key, if somebody gets those 12 or 24 words and they say, I wonder if there's any child keys tied to this key, and they know what they're doing, they can exploit that and quickly discover, oh, there are some child keys here. Oh, and those addresses are controlling some Bitcoin. So that one master key can unlock lots of different vaults. Think of it as a master key to a room that you've only given other people some access to, but if they get the master, they can get all of your Bitcoin if they know what they're doing, and it wouldn't be too much for them to do. So if someone has your master, they can take it out. So obvious disadvantage in that respect as well. I see I'm not in the screenplay version, but anyway. What we're going to do is an example, and we're going to link a passphrase child key as our hot wallet in a hot wallet configuration. So there's multiple different hot wallets that you can do. Here are a few. There's some Bitcoin specific wallets that I like, but there are many others. Tonight's example, I'm going to use Bull Bitcoin, and what we're going to do is create a key using a passphrase, and from there generate a child key that I know I can always get and use in my Bull Bitcoin wallet. And why would I want to do this? Well, I know how to get to that key, and so if I lose my phone, my device gets hacked, something happens, whatever, I can recreate it. I also don't even have to trust the manufacturer of the device or the app that I'm using because I created my key. I don't have to trust their key that they gave me. Okay? So with that in mind, let's go back to the Ian Coleman website. And I'm just going to All right. Here what I did is I put a little prefix in front of my passphrase. And I'm calling it, here I'm using the space is the place. Okay? Maybe that's my little prefix that I put in front of all my passphrases. Or something, just some sort of a thing. We the people. Or whatever it is, your favorite music artist. Or some sort of thing, just to add a little bit more, but not get too crazy. Memorable for you. Maybe I put in the space is the place. And then I label it. What is this? Oh, this is for my hot wallet. Okay? So I got my hot wallet, and that's my passphrase. Okay? So if I was to go down here, I would see some addresses that, again, would be tied to that exact passphrase with those 12 words. Notice, if we go up a little bit here, there's show BIP 85. BIP stands for Bitcoin Improvement Proposal, and BIP 85 is what creates child keys. And it was in that Bitcoin Improvement Proposal that this type of structure is created where what's the process by using a key to generate a new key? And so there's a program that does that. And so if we say, yes, let's do a BIP 85 key, it's going to create a child key for us. And I can tell it, do I want a 12-word key, an 18-word key, or a 24-word key? We're going to keep it simple and do 12. Okay? So we're going to do a 12-word key. And then there's indexes. And now an index starts at 0 and builds up to, I think the 4 billion numbers. So I can keep adding these if I wanted to every day for the rest of my life and then some, right? So we'll start with 0. We'll just keep it at index 0. And notice these 12 words that it has given us. Whoops. So I've got 12 brand new words. And if I were to go back and change anything about this, I'll add an exclamation mark at the end. It's going to give me a whole different 12 words. Okay. If I change it to be index 1, whole different set of 12 words. Index 2, whole different set of 12 words. Okay, I'm going to go back. So, and yeah, good question. An index just allows you, it's saying from this key, we can create 4 billion other keys. Where should we start? And we're going to say, let's start at 0. And that's kind of the first. Good question. So if you can accomplish the same thing with a passphrase, why add an index? So with a passphrase, I've got to key in both my 12 or 24 words plus that passphrase to create my key. If I want to give a key to somebody, I don't want to give them my 12 or 24 words plus my passphrase. Here, I can keep that private to me and just give them 12 words as a whole new key. And plus, in order to enter, if I was to use this key in a lot of applications, they're going to ask me for 12 or 24 words as kind of a recovery key to be the key that it's going to store. Well, with a passphrase, there's not a 24 or 12 word key there. So this is using that key to create a 12 or 24 word key that I could use in some. So even if yes, I could create a passphrase called hot wallet, and but if I'd have to import that whole key into the device, and it would hold that, and I could do that as either cold storage or a hot wallet, and actually give it the key. But once I've given it the key, I don't really have a way to back it up without knowing, again, my 1224 words plus the passphrase. I mean, yes, I can back it up, but now I've given them that key, and maybe I don't want that whole key revealed like that. So, and I may want to create different. Okay, so maybe I've got hot wallet 0 that I used for a while, then hot wallet 1, hot wallet 2, hot wallet 3, and maybe I want to rotate these every so often. I don't want to have to create. Now I could add the letter 1, 2, 3 to my passphrase and sort of do it that way too. So you could accomplish that, but this is just a way to, again, kind of recreate a key from a key using an index rather than using a passphrase entirely. Don't know if that wholly answered. Yes? Yeah, so is there an offline version of this? Yes, and that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Because, and for one, never, ever, ever use this key, right? So this is exposed now, both to you and maybe others as well someday. So never use these 12 words as a key anywhere and that sort of thing. And don't do it online. Don't use this website online to do it. And I would even be careful about using that website even offline, because once you go back online, who knows what, he gives you instructions about how to do it offline, and I think you could. However, many of the signing devices, Cold Card, Q, the Seed Signer, a Passport, many of the signing devices will give you the opportunity both to create the passphrase, and that's pretty well given for almost all of them, as well as in most cases this child seed too. Just look for BIP85 or child seed or something like that, and it will give it. So you could use your signing device as the thing that's going to generate that key. It's going to display the 12 words, and then that's what you're going to use to give away, to import, to do whatever as that key. Good? Yeah. Dave?
It seems to me that if you were going to create child wallets, that you wouldn't want to start with index 0 because that's default.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't want to start with 0. Yes, however, I don't think it'll take somebody too long to just, chug through. And if you're at, 3 billion, some other thing, that might be a little, yeah. I wouldn't use a child key for huge amounts of cold storage. This is, but I think it's a good application for my hot wallet that I'll show you in just a moment. And I think it's a good application for small amounts that you do want to give to others. Hey, try some Bitcoin. Give somebody $100 worth of Bitcoin and say, hey, I'd love to hear how it goes here. And oh, hey, I lost that, man. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, well, I can recover it and get it back and use it and do whatever, right? Because I essentially control the key. Yes, Joey. Yes. Yeah, great analogy. Being the uncle for somebody else to help onboard them perhaps, or at least get them some familiarity with it. Yes. Correct. That's right. If you did the wrong index, and you're the one, if you don't have some supercomputer that's iterating through those, yeah, then you're the one having to one-off, try lots of different things. Let's do a quick example here. So I've got this key. The space is the place is a prefix, kind of abbreviated. I'm calling it hot wallet with a capital H and capital W. And then, we did our 12-word key. If by chance you happen to have copied these 12 words plus the passphrase exactly like this, you'll get exactly the same as well here. And so we've got these words here: cup, drink, race, and so forth. Okay. All right, so I'm going to give an example using a Bull Bitcoin wallet. This is a fresh install. I've wiped everything from this wallet previously. If you happen to be using a similar wallet, make sure you don't wipe it without having this all backed up and doing making sure you've got your backups for that. But so I'm going to just go through these steps here. We're going to get started. And then you'll see an option to recover a wallet. You'll find this with just about any of the devices, especially on a fresh install. I am not asking them to create my key and use their key. I want to use my key. And I want to use the 12 words that I just created as a child hot wallet. And so I'm going to say recover wallet. And it gives me the option for what they call a physical backup. It says recover your wallet via 12 words. And it gives me the chance to start typing my 12 words. And you'll find that as soon as you enter at least 3 letters, sometimes all 4, it will go through and do these. So I'm putting in and this actually doesn't take too long, as you see, once you've, because it's got it there, and I'll just quickly add it. But what I want to compare for you is what it shows me here on this device and what it will show us on that website that we were just at as well. Oops. And the way this works is this last one is always a what's called a checksum, and so it will always make sure that the other 11 are correct. So you really can't have it not work out if you enter in that 12th word correctly. And if you know your 12th word is right and it's not coming out right, then something's wrong with your other 11. Yes, Joy? Yeah. I don't know. I haven't thought about that. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, yeah, this is a hot wallet, so yeah, not as much. Now, one thing I do want to point out that I learned the hard way. You can thank me for for the contribution. Um, yes, so I originally, and this was months ago, many months ago, opened Bull. Never used what they call secure Bitcoin, which is the on base layer wallet. but I did create some Lightning transactions and had some funds sitting in what they call their instant payments wallet, which is a combination of either Liquid or Lightning wallets that they use. I then imported my own key, had my hot wallet balance here, and then I thought, I don't need this wallet anymore because it's never had any Bitcoin in it. I don't need that wallet anymore. It's just taking up real estate on my screen. I deleted it, and in the process, deleted my instant payments wallet because this is tied to this key. Okay, so even though it was Lightning wallet, remember with Lightning, you're opening a channel with another partner, and even with Liquid, they were using this key to control these payments. And so even though this did not have a balance, I lost some Bitcoin. You can, again, thank me for your contribution in this lesson that I learned the hard way that I'm sharing with you now. So make sure that Altisay is, if you do this, you start with a fresh install of whatever wallet you want to do it on. And now this secure Bitcoin and the key that controls these as well is this key that I just entered, these 12 words. And so I lose my wallet. It falls in the swimming pool. Whatever happens. And now, did I just lose my Bitcoin? No, I know how to recreate my child key. So I'm just going to press the receive address here. And notice how it gives me an address. And notice these last 4 digits, XDPV. Okay? I'm going to now go back to the oh, no, I'm not right. Yeah. That's a good point. Okay, so XDPV, remember that. I'm going to exit out of this. We're going to go back to the Ian Coleman webpage, and you'll notice when I look at this address, that doesn't match up. Well, what this is doing is it's still showing me the addresses for this 12-word key and this passphrase. It's not showing me the addresses of the child index, even though we said show the BIP85. It's just showing me what the key would be for the BIP85. So now, though, if I copy this and paste that, I'm going to get rid of my passphrase. I'm going to paste that. Sorry. And I'm not going to show that BIP85. XDPV, right? So those 12 words that I had as my child key are now again the master key of my Bull Bitcoin hot wallet at the moment, right? So something happens to that wallet, it gets compromised, whatever, or I want to move it, and I can just create an index 1 next time or whatever, and now I recreate, move things to that wallet. Anyway, added some complexity, but at the same time, if I used Bull, if I used Aqua, if I used Nunchuck, if I had a handful of different wallets out there, how many 12 or 24 words am I having to try to keep track of? This is one way that I can import separate keys or the same key, depending on how I want to manage it, into these different various wallets and know how to recover should I ever need to do so. And so you don't need their generated key necessarily if you want to manage it this way. And you don't even have to use the passphrase. You could just go right off of your 12 or 24 words, look at a child index, and go from there. But I kind of like to add the passphrase, create the, call it my hot wallet, then I know what it is. Now, before I'm just going to share one more best practice related to that, and then we'll take time for other things. So, a best practice when it comes to the child key. Some steps. This is what I would put maybe in my password manager. I would maybe make a note, call it Bull Bitcoin Hot Wallet. And then I might say, what was my passphrase that I used? And when I created the story, I put in, we the people, Bull Bitcoin. Okay? Whatever the passphrase was that you used, in this case, I would say, the space is the place, abbreviated, and then hot wallet. And then with each passphrase, and I'm going to tell it, well, what child index is this at, too? So that way I'm keeping track of these indexes. With every wallet, you're going to get an 8-digit fingerprint. And it's good to just record their fingerprint. That way I can know in an instant, yeah, this is the same wallet. I got the right wallet here. So I'm going to record the fingerprint in my password manager. And then I'm going to maybe make a note, I might even put the whole 12 words in my password manager. It's a hot wallet. I'm saying I'm willing, if I got hacked in my password manager, to lose what I have in my hot wallet. But if I ever have to get to that quickly, I can just look at the 12 words there. Otherwise, I'm going to have to get out my device, put in my 12 words, my passphrase, my child index, whatever, and then have it tell me my 12 words. So, that's suitable as well. So it just depends on again, how secure you want this to be and the trade-off with accessibility. But either way, I'm going to make a note in my password manager. If I've got a child index hot wallet out there somewhere, every key should be recorded to some degree in my password manager. Never linked to my 12 or 24, because even here, they still have to get my 12 or 24 words, unless I put those 12 words there, the 12 words of my child index. So even with that, it's again just like saying, here's a passphrase, but somebody have to know my 12 words to even get to my child index hot wallet. So never store your child key or those instructions with your 12 or 24 words. And if giving this child key to others, there's no need to even tell them that it's a child key, right? You don't even open that door. Just say, hey, here's some Bitcoin. Yeah, I hope you enjoy spending it, and get familiar with it, whatever. And then, if something happens to it, let me know, or something like that. That's all you have to say. Don't even open the door that, it's a child key, whatever, right? So, all right, well, with that, that's all I've got for tonight's presentation. So we'll open it up for some questions, dialogue, anything you want to ask, share. Yes? Yes. So the question was, if I have got some Bitcoin sitting with some keys now and I want to add a passphrase to it, I'd have to move that Bitcoin. Yes, because that's a whole new key, adding a passphrase to a key. However, if you've got umpteen different keys out there, and you want to start consolidating, and boy, transaction fees are low now, it might be a good time to, move some things over, create different passphrases for perhaps each of the different keys where they were originally from, but you only need to, concern yourself with understanding and knowing your master key and then the different passphrases. But yes, it's creating a whole new key with no Bitcoin in it until you execute a transaction from one key that you're going to have to sign off on from that address to the new address. Good? Yes?
In your example, when you were creating the child wallet, well, you used the passphrase first, but I'm assuming that's optional also.
Yes. Yeah, completely optional to use the passphrase, but what I like about using a passphrase there is that, again, should somebody come across my 12 or 24 words, they've immediately got access to all the children as well. Here they'd have to still know a passphrase and then see if there's any children off of that. I'm not sure. When were these BIPs introduced? Does anybody know? I think that sounds about right. And that's the words, the 12 or 24 words. It used to be a lot more complex, and you had to try to remember and keep track of a bunch of other different sorts of things. And then and that's more of a wallet implementation than a change to Bitcoin itself. It was more how wallets are going to create and use and generate keys, and then have a standard to say, oh, it's a whole lot easier to remember 12 words than 128 different zeros and ones, or even the hexadecimal derivative of those. And so people were storing them on their computers or other places. I can't remember all these digits, right, what that is. And so that's why we have a lot of lost Bitcoin or a lot of stolen Bitcoin. A whole lot easier now to just, here's 12 words to know.
You were talking earlier about how, because it's generated by a wallet or by yourself, and you don't want to trust the wallet generated yourself, what's like an example of how a wallet can create a bad situation generated?
What's an example of how a bad wallet could? So I can think of maybe two things, and I don't know how practical this is. There might be others here that could speak into that. But one is, the randomizer that a wallet uses is coming from something. They're doing some sort of process to generate that randomness with some kind of a seed, if you will. What if somebody hacks that? So I know of people, for example, I've got a multi-sig, and I've got a Trezor, and I've got a cold card, and I've got my passport, and because if something happens to one of those entities, I know that I can still have it secured with my multi-sig. Well, that's kind of what they're referring to, is what happens if somebody hacks Ledger and is able to somehow recreate the seeds the way they create the seeds. Now, I think that's pretty almost impossible, but there's that concern. And so here, you wouldn't have to worry about how the seed's being created by a manufacturer if the manufacturer gets hacked. Yeah. Oh, okay. So how do you create a seed without using a wallet? Great question. Now, one is, with a passphrase, who cares if they get hacked if maybe I've got a very small amount at my master level, but I've got everything else in passphrases? They're not going to be able to get to my passphrase stuff at all. So even if they did get hacked, having a passphrase is additional security. In my mind, with that. So that removes that sort of layer. But the other way of doing it is you can create your own key, again, using dice rolls, using pictures and coin flips and other different things that a lot of the devices themselves will give you the ability to enter in your dice rolls, enter in take a picture with the camera. So if I took, this picture, who's going to have that picture with every exact pixel in that fashion, at that lighting, and whatever. So it's its own unique. And what it does is it takes that digital information, runs it through that SHA-256 hashing process to come up with a 256-bit key that's unique. And so there's different ways where you can generate your own key, but you have to have a device to do it. You wouldn't want to use the website like here, but what you could do, and this is what I have done, is I'll say, okay, I got a new device, and what if these were my dice rolls? And I think it's either this side or another one, where you can enter in the dice rolls and see if it gives you the same result. And if you get the same result, then you know, okay, at least it works. I'm not going to use those dice rolls because I just entered it on a computer. Now I'm going to do a different set of dice rolls, and that's going to be my key.
One thing I could add on like the back end is what's happening with the cryptography on the back end is think about it like A times B equals C, where C is the ultimate public key that comes out that everybody can see on the blockchain, and A and B, A would be this thing called a generator point, and that's a standard number in Bitcoin. Everybody knows that, and that's public. B is the random number that is multiplied by that publicly known number to get C. And what makes cryptography cool is that normally if you could say potential equals C and we know A as we do, and we know C as we do reading on the blockchain, you'd say we could take C, divide it by A, and get B. But cryptography with these, the elliptic cryptography that we use allows us that you actually can't reverse a calculation. It's a one-way calculation. That's that you can't perform that division. The idea with quantum computing is that if quantum computers are able to guess things much more rapidly than modern computers, then they could actually conduct that division that would allow you to find it. Um, but so like the B is like the random number source that you have, and wallets could use a really core form of randomness generation. Like there's like whole libraries and open source code that use the random number generator from 2 decades ago. There's plenty of hackers that have found ways to like back into those numbers. A way of thinking about that would be like if Tim's rolling dice, but we know that Tim's elbow hurts. He always kind of rolls this one way, and he always rolls this slight, maybe 10% chance that he's going to roll a 5 more than anything else. It makes it slightly less random, which makes it, depending on the degree of that, you could guess your way into it more easily. So hackers are like running machines that are trying to test that on public keys. So given that source of randomness, it might actually fit that.
Yeah. And again, a good example of a need for passphrases, because if that source of randomness isn't quite as random as it could or should be, then again, you've added that much more randomness with a passphrase to it. And again, you may not put all of it in one passphrase. You might have 3 or 4, right? And so you don't have to have everything in one wallet. You can also, in your multi-sig configurations, a multi-sig, 2 out of 3 or 5 out of 7, any configuration you want to establish, essentially, you can, each one is a unique key. You could have passphrase A, passphrase B, passphrase C as your 3 signatures in a multi-sig. So you don't have to necessarily, now in that case, somebody would know, you could be the person who knows, oh, I know all 3 of my keys, okay? Well, that may be a good thing or a bad thing, right? Maybe you don't want to know all 3 of your keys. And maybe it's better that this key was generated without you knowing anything about it, and that's one of the keys in your multi-sig. But depending on how you want to structure it, again, a key is a key is a key, that everything a passphrase is a unique key, and that unique key can be even in your multi-sig configurations as part of it. So, yeah. Other questions? Yes, Joe. Yeah, can you reverse engineer a passphrase if you know the fingerprint or anything? No, you would just have to brute force, if you know the 12 or 24 words, you're just having to brute force a lot of other iterations of passphrases that you're trying to see if, does this work, does it, and so there's no way to do it other than through a lot of electricity spend to brute force that. Correct, yeah, so the fingerprint itself is a hash of the key. Again, so it generates the key, and then from the key, there's a hash of that is created that gets it down to 8 digits. Now, I think there are, because of that, I'd have to know for sure, maybe some of you do, but I think there could be the same fingerprint for a few different, sets of keys out there, but that would be extremely rare, right? But yeah. Well, and it's not using your fingerprint. The fingerprint's just kind of giving you an indication that, oh, we think this is the key we've identified for you, and so when you sign a transaction, it's not looking at the fingerprint, it's looking at the whole key to say, does this key correspond with this address? Yes, okay, good. And if by some chance to whittle it down to 8 digits, this key and this, all the hundreds of millions of keys that are out there might share the same finger. I don't know for sure if that's the case, but it seems like there's got to be more, a few of the same fingerprints, but the chance that you're going to get the same fingerprint twice in any of your wallets is never going to occur. And so it's really for your reference, is to say, oh yeah, I'm dealing with the right wallet here, the right key, because it matches the fingerprint that I noted for this wallet. No, yeah, it's not even used in, it's just a double check kind of, and for your own reference. Yeah. No, you don't have to. It's only that I would include it in my password manager. Here's the passphrase I used. Here's the fingerprint. And in doing so, then I can tell exactly. Now I'm entering it in on my device, and I just have to look. Oh yeah, the fingerprints match. Okay, I entered it in correctly when I added it to my device. So it's just kind of a check for you. But that way, otherwise, I might try to then, if I didn't record the fingerprint in my password manager and I misapplied the passphrase, and I'm like, why is this transaction not going through? What happened? Did somebody steal my Bitcoin? I can't, I'm freaking out or whatever. Oh, I entered the wrong passphrase. Because as soon as you enter something and you press enter, it's just going to say, okay, here's your key. And I didn't know that I, thumbed something incorrectly or something like that and such. So it's just kind of a way to say, here's a hash of your key that's got to be pretty close to, it's got to be your key if it matches up. And so it's just a good way of checking yourself when you go to do a transaction. No, does the fingerprint have anything to do with the derivation? No, the derivation's more of the address. And essentially what's happening is one key is tied to one address, but there's these things called derivation paths where it just keeps indexing a little bit on that elliptic curve where it's moving the private key just a little, and it's moving then the public key just a little to correspond, and that's your address. And so at the end of the day, wallet software does all the math behind it to tell you, here's the next receive address, here's the next receive address, here's how much you have in your wallet because we've sifted through, 20 different addresses, and this is what we found for you. So the wallet software kind of handles all of that, but that's what a derivation path essentially is to a degree. It's how you want to apply the shift of your master key to create a new address. I don't know an entire amount about that, but I wouldn't play with that either unless you know what you're doing. So, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, and you can fiddle with that. If he changed his derivation path, then yeah. Yeah. So and some people do if they know what they're doing, but then again, you've added complexity, and can somebody else find this? Are they going to be able to spend from it and know, so anyway, I don't know that I would do too much with it, but it's for controlling which address you want your key to move next to. Yeah. Yeah, Joel? Yeah, great question. So what happens if you lose a device or something happens with your device? How can you not be scared to lose your Bitcoin? So it comes down to either, again, these 12 or 24 words, and if I've used them, my passphrases, and if I've used them, my child keys. You're going to start with your 12 or 24 words, make sure those are recorded, but in a offline fashion, in a way that's going to be resistant to all kinds of weather and natural disasters and thieves and whatever. Make sure that you've got access to these words, and that those you trust and love also have access to those words. That's the starting point. But then next, as soon as you create your first passphrase, before you receive any Bitcoin to that address, you record it in your password manager. And you make sure your loved ones or whoever it is that you want to perhaps have receive your Bitcoin when you're not around to give it to them has access to your password manager as well, or to that note, or to whatever. And so depending on how so for example, Bitwarden or Vault Warden too, if you do your own hosting, but Bitwarden has an inheritance feature. You can set it to where after X number of hours, days, months, whatever it is you want to, time limit you want to use, now so-and-so, who also has a Bitwarden account, has access to my wallet, or to, not my wallet, my password manager, and to my Bitwarden. And so, Tim goes 2 weeks without touching Bitwarden, something's up, because Tim's in Bitwarden all day long, right, do it, right. So something happens there, who Tim's designated is going to be able to get to and look at those notes, sift through, and have access to it. So you have those kinds of backups in place as well. I would say, I think passphrases are great, but keep it simple. You don't need a ton of them, but make it a little tricky, make it a little different and unique. Long, but not too long. 15, 20 characters or something like that. And anyway, and then it's recorded in Bitwarden or whatever password manager you're using. And now something happens. Oh, this is how we recover. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's right. As long as you have the 12. Yeah, if you can recover those 12 words again. Now, Bull, Aqua, others, they also have their own backup strategies and other things like that. Sometimes you end up paying for extra services for some things depending on what it is that you're trying to do with some of the outfits. But they have their ways of recovery as well. And so feel free to utilize that, of course, as also, but you don't need it if you know how to recreate it. And once you've done this a few times, I got a couple passphrases. I got create my child wallet. I import. Okay, yeah, I see how that works. And do the same key in both Bull and Aqua, and you'll see the same balance show up in each. And okay, yeah, I get how this works. And then clear out and completely uninstall one of them, make sure, and then reinstall and recover with a new one if you want a different key controlled by each wallet, however you want to do it. But anyway, there's lots of, the possibilities are endless, right? 4 billion different child keys for one, and all sorts of different passphrases, all sorts, so it can get crazy pretty quick. But once you've done enough, it's kind of fun actually and you have the confidence to not freak out, to know that, oh yeah, I've got a little Bitcoin here, a little Bitcoin there, or whatever, and you've got your different levels, hot wallet, some passphrases, some multi-sig, whatever, to have things in different locations. So. All right. Yeah, I think what we're going to do, are we going to do another series? Yes, I think our next class will be on multi-sig. We'll do that sometime here in the next couple of months, and then we'll probably iterate back through the three. How to generate a key, we'll do some dice rolls, we'll do whatever, and kind of start from scratch that way, this presentation and multi-sig. And there's other things, and if you have some other things you ever want to chat or reach out about. I love talking about Bitcoin. So yeah. Oh, sure. What is multi-sig? So multi-sig is multi-signature. It is requiring that not just one key moves the Bitcoin from one address to another address on the Bitcoin network, but multiple keys are required to move the Bitcoin from one address to another address. And most systems go up to about 8 keys. Yeah, thanks for coming. Most go up to about 8 keys. So if you really wanted to be complex, you could say 8 out of 8 are required to sign this transaction. Well, one person loses their key, and that any Bitcoin at that address is gone forever. So you don't want to be too restrictive. So what's most common is 2 out of 3. So if 2 out of 3 keys are required, and often people will locate these geographically in different locations. They'll give them to different people, different, whatever, and in such a way that, there's always security that, hey, if the EMP attack happens, if this happens, whatever, it's not going to wipe me out because I've got a key in another country. I've got a key with this person or with that person, so different ways in which that can be done, or at least, again, with trusted individuals that you can give a key to, and then, again, 2 out of 3 or so are required. 3 out of 5, 4 out of 7, all kinds of different configurations. All right. Well, yeah, my pleasure. Yeah.